Hi, Richard. Thanks for coming on. Really good to have you back on the program again. Those in the audience that aren't familiar with you, we'd love to hear again a quick 30-second background on what you're doing, and of course, maybe some updates as to what's going on with Sana.
Certainly. Well, the 1992, I had to drive a Jeep off a bridge in the Yemen near the capital Sana'a, hence the company name. That gave me SCI, traumatic brain injury, PTSD, and a nerve damage pain problem that gave me a 5-year life expectancy. I'm still alive and kicking now. That's because the first version of the device fixed my underlying pain problem and completely removed all of the nerve damage pain. Um, the device itself is an audio-visual neuromodulation. Obviously, the first version was laptops, wires, and boxes, but this is the current version. We're getting pulses of light, pulses of sound, generating very specific frequency patterns in the brain, and then using that to treat neuropathic pain, PTSD, basically anything in chronic pain or mental health where there is an underlying autonomic nervous system disruption and where slow wave sleep plays a large part of that equation. Um, so fast forward to where we are now, we have a de novo in front of the FDA for neuropathic pain. That was pivotal data corrected at Mount Sinai. And we have Department of Defense funding for PTSD. We completed a pilot at the VA. The data was so good that the DoD then increased the funding to fund a pivotal. And the last 2 weeks, they've just increased our funding again because basically, as they're shutting down other projects, they had some extra left over to top us up, which was awesome. So yeah, those are the two key things going on in the US, and then in Israel, we're about to start a combination pain and PTSD study in combat injured veterans, and that's because in Israel, 1 in 4 the population currently are having PTSD symptoms. Assuredly higher than that in Gaza, but it's a very large problem. And the biggest problem in mental health is the ratio between the number of people who need help and the number of mental health practitioners um, who are able to help people. So there's a bunch of tech that is doing great jobs at increasing the number of people that each mental health practitioner can help. Lots of things like CBT being delivered via app and by VR, etc. We are going for the stage before that. So as soon as someone gets diagnosed with a pain or mental health problem at a um, primary physician level, that devices can then be sent to that person. So currently in America, 30% of people are on a prescription psychoactive drug every day. So opioids, benzos, SSRIs, sleep drugs. If you add in all of the other self-medication, the estimates go up as high as 50%, but there's probably a lot of overlap between the prescription and non-prescription. And 85% of that is prescribed at the primary care level.
Mm.
And in the last survey that I saw, where they looked at people's medication regimes and said, okay, if this had been done by a psychiatrist to standard of care, how much of this would have been done the way it has been done? And the answer was 12%.
Mm.
So 30% of Americans taking this active drug, 12% of those being prescribed in a way that would be considered standard of care. This is the scale of the problem. And our aim is someone gets sent one of these, they use it multiple times a day, but primary use is to put themselves to sleep at night. And that then solves the sleep part of the equation, which then hopefully makes every other part of the pain and mental health bit easier. So, of the tools in the toolkit that you want to assemble in the future, um, hopefully we are one of the very first ones that then takes a layer of anxiety, stress, and sleep deprivation out of the problem set, so that then other solutions work more effectively when added on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I see. I mean, look, the potential for, the Sana device in those areas that you mentioned around like PTSD and of course, as you just said, sleep disorders is that's really fascinating. And I think you may have mentioned some of the sort of other at-home solutions that are sort of non-invasive and sort of shifting the future of healthcare delivery as well, especially when it comes to mental health and pain management. Like, how do you see that sort of evolving as you
I mean,
as you were?
ultimately, all pain and mental health delivery should be multimodal.
Mm,
It should be, let's find all the different tools in the toolkit that are going to work together to produce the right result at scale. So, obviously, we're the audio-visual neuromodulation part. The other things in that neuromodulation bucket are the vagal nerve stims, the electrical stims. Those are the sort of neuromodulation alongside us that will scale. And then the next bit of the bucket is the sort of software focused things like cognitive behavioral therapy, delivered via apps and via VR. And if you've got those two, um, and then you've got whatever drugs are actually producing decent results, that's your third leg of your third tool in the toolkit. And
mm.
then you means that your specialty care, everyone's going into specialty care in much better shape than they are now, which means then a much better use of resources at specialty care. So by the time you're actually speaking to a person, once you come off your wait list, the aim is that you're in much better shape. Or the people who most need that mental health resource are being prioritized. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I see the bucket of things emerging.
No, that's really interesting. That's a great perspective. And just to wrap up, we always had such a limited time on the program to speak with you, Richard. But of course, your details are in the chat. I'd encourage everyone to check out, the great device that and technology that Richard is developing with Sana. You've got decades of research behind you, including, studies and research sponsored by the Department of Defense and so forth. You're in the midst of a pivotal FDA study and having, of course, received breakthrough designation for fibromyalgia. We'd love to hear from you as we wrap up. What are the key challenges you're facing in bringing this technology to a larger market now, and how you're planning to sort of overcome some of those challenges?
Um, in terms of our risk and challenges where we are now, it's timing. It's timing risks, which is therefore bleeds into funding. Um, the liquidity in our space, there's plenty of money around once you have an FDA approval and enough early sales to show that you've de-risked the commercial route. We're at that stage just before that. So we're in the middle of a safe note extension round. For we're trying to raise a total of 5 million. We've closed on 2.7 already, so we're over halfway.
Mm,
That will then give us enough money to complete the FDA, make the first early sales in Israel before we do a Series B, because the FDA, the de novo we've got submitted already, um, should come through in quarter three. The current cuts to the FDA are not impacting de novo timelines, which is really good news for us. Um, and the a little bit the next million basically solves us through the timeline that will get us through to a really big Series B. So the liquidity in the market and that's the bit that I'm focused on sort of daily wise right now, because clinically we've solved the problems, regulatory wise we've solved the problems, and we're in good shape. It's just a little bit more fuel for to get us over that line.
yeah, it's always piecemeal, right? In terms of trying to make those steps. Richard, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to be on our program. I'd encourage everybody in the chat to connect with Richard, find out more about Sana. And if you're a founder, definitely talk to Richard about what his journey has been like so far. He's definitely one of the success stories we've had at HITLAB in terms of the progress that you've made, Richard. And I always love hearing your story about how you came up with Sana as well. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jerry, and I really appreciate all the work that HITLAB is doing to support me and everyone else in our community. Thank you.
Thanks so much.